What's going on, everybody? Today's video, we're going to take a look at a review done by Gleason and colleagues about performance training guidelines for the 1.5 and 2 mile run. In this review, they take a look at a bunch of different categories, including aerobic power, anaerobic power, lactate threshold, strength, running efficiency, and a few others to determine exactly how they play a role into the run and then how to potentially program to incorporate all of that into your workout program to help you excel on the 1.5 or 2 mile run. Because they did a review, they looked at a bunch of different studies and they compiled basically all the information into this review to help come up with their conclusions. So aerobic power is measured by your maximum oxygen uptake, or VO2 max. It's basically how much can you perform at a certain rate relying solely on your aerobic system. This actually has a high correlation in recreational joggers to their 2 mile run performance. And in highly trained competitive runners, this contributes between 93 and 94% of their total energy output during a 3,000 meter race. Then you have your anaerobic system. With this, that's all of your kind of instantaneous short-term energy. So you don't end up using the oxygen you intake to produce this power. Most of it comes from the glucose breakdown done in your muscles. Testing for anaerobic power can be difficult due to the testing methodologies requiring you to perform an activity, and the aerobic system actually does end up contributing potentially up to 30% or so of the actual power output. So it's hard to isolate that anaerobic power output. Now we're talking about the 1.5 and 2 mile run, but we're also including anaerobic power output into it, which doesn't make a lot of sense because it's generally used to measure cardiorespiratory fitness. Many runners end up outputting up to 110% of their VO2 max during their runs for this, let's say, 10 to 11 minute time period. With this, there's no possible way that their aerobic system could be accounting for all of their energy expenditure because that VO2 max isn't going to go above 100%. So there's going to be an extra percentage that's utilized from other energy systems. So some things that could be done to help improve performance would be increasing your lactate threshold, increasing your anaerobic power output, as well as potentially strength training. All of these could help improve your run time on that 1.5 or 2 mile run. So your lactate threshold ends up being pretty much, once you hit that, your muscles start to feel stiffer and you get that burning sensation in them. If you've ever weightlifted before or have run before, you've probably felt this at some point. Basically, your body is producing more lactate than it can get rid of, causing that burning sensation, and it can actually end up decreasing performance because you can't move as well because there's less energy. So one of the ways that you can work on this is training at or above that lactic threshold. For your untrained individuals, that ends up sitting between 50 and 60% of your VO2 max. And in highly trained individuals, that could be between 60 and 85% of that VO2 max. With this, there's a higher correlation between lactate threshold and 3,000 meter times than there is VO2 max and 3,000 meter times, which goes again into the importance of potentially not relying completely on that aerobic system. Strength training being the other thing that could potentially increase how easy the run feels by being able to generate more power at the same relative effort, or the lower amount of power at a lower amount of effort. This could increase your mechanical efficiency while running and overall make the run easier and allow you to run faster without feeling an increase in effort. This could also potentially help you maintain your running form and composure during your longer runs, as form tends to break down later in the runs as you get more tired. So with that, it can actually affect your running economy. So two people running at the same pace, whoever is running at a lower percentage of their VO2 max has a greater running economy. That means they're using less of the total aerobic capacity to perform that run. Less energy used means you can either run faster at the same effort or maintain that same speed with less effort, therefore more than likely being able to run that same pace for a longer amount of time. But that's not exactly what we're interested in, as we're focusing on that shorter 1.5 or 2 mile run distance. As well as this, they look into some acute strategies or strategies right immediately before or during the run itself to increase performance. As far as a warm-up goes, it's a mixed bag kind of. The overall recommendation is that you should do a warm-up close to your VO2 max, because that'll prime your system for when you start the run, as long as you start within 5 minutes of completing your warm-up. However, you're given a few minute warm-up before your run, as far as the Air Force standards go. So if you get in a good warm-up before that, you'll be able to perform potentially better starting out on that test, rather than your body having to start cold to warm up and get everything moving. One of the other things that they looked at is pacing, which is something that I like to do because I've run enough that it makes sense to me. But those that don't run consistently and don't have a lot of running experience, pacing is overall not recommended, because it's harder for you to determine exactly how you need to run. And if you end up starting out way too fast, you might not be able to have that sprint finish that everyone usually has at the end of their run. However, they did look at it, and people who started out 6% faster at the beginning of a 5K run ended up having the faster times, as opposed to a 3% faster or on pace first 1 kilometer out of a 5 kilometer run. So pacing, wouldn't recommend it, but if you understand it and you've been running long enough, then I think it's a great thing to do, so you can help keep yourself on track and know how you need to run during all parts of it. Took a look at high intensity interval training, and that actually could potentially have a lot of benefits by increasing your ability to do short duration runs, but accumulate a lot more of them while not having to have those long run days. And they found that it could potentially completely replace your longer runs. And when included anywhere from, it says 0 to 4 times per week, along with 2 days, I believe, of steady state slow cardio, that it actually does improve run times. For distance training, this goes into that aerobic capacity and VO2 max potentially. So with this, I don't like long distance training. To me, it doesn't seem necessary for your 1.5 or 2 mile run. It's over before a practice 5 mile run is going to really have a lot of benefit. 5 mile run could take you 40-50 minutes to do, and in that same amount of time you can be much more effective with your training. However, as far as the review goes, there are cross-training methods that you can do that help maintain your cardiovascular fitness as well, if not improve it, while not running. So if you have any joint issues, or you have problems with too heavy of an impact from constant running, you could do like cycling, or I think it's water running, that will help you maintain your cardiovascular fitness so you don't have to run as much. For the last thing, they looked at some strength training studies, and they found that a workout using 3 or more sets of a 70 to 95% of your 1 rep max for multi-joint exercises, so things like bench press, squats, deadlifts, things that use multiple joints to lift the weight, or compound exercises, actually yielded the greatest results especially when compared to bodyweight calisthenics or circuit training, which didn't seem to elicit the same improvement in run performance. This could be due to it not being strenuous enough on your body to help neurologically build that bridge to produce that extra power during your runs to help you potentially run faster and improve your run economy. Because bodyweight exercises are limited to your body weight, you can load more weight into your heavier compound exercises than you can with a bodyweight workout. So with all of this, what's the best training program? And at the end of the day, a combination of almost everything is what you ideally would like. Now I know due to time constraints that people have, it's not necessarily possible to have 4 lifting workouts per week, 4 HIIT workouts per week, 4 distance runs per week, because you're taking up a lot of time. You can end up spending 15 to 20 hours just working out. I'm going to throw up what they recommended in a chart at the end of their review, and that'll be up on the screen right now. And I'm going to talk about a little of what I think I would prioritize in this situation to help reduce the amount you have to do and cut it down to what I think will help you improve the most. In my opinion, you should focus on the section that you have the least amount of experience performing. So if you have never done like high intensity interval training before, focus on that. You're probably going to yield more results from something that you haven't experienced before rather than something you've already been doing. So if you haven't done any strength training, work on strength training, help build up your muscles so you can perform better on those runs, because you're brand new to it, so your body's going to adapt much faster and you're going to see a much greater benefit out of that, rather than continuing to do, let's say you only done distance runs, and if you just continue to do distance runs, then you're not going to really improve anywhere and you're not going to see any strength improvements that you would if you started, let's say, weight training 3 days a week. Or you're not going to see potentially your lactate threshold increase to allow you to maintain a faster pace if you're just doing a single one of the exercises. So I would optimally include all of them into your workouts during the week. However, I would focus on the one that you have the least experience with it. That way you can maximize your benefits from it. So if you like this video, give it a like, leave a comment down below, tell me what you thought about it, and till next time, have a good one, and your mileage may vary.